Hello and welcome to another episode of KJ Presents an Ultimate UIM Adventure. In our last episode, we had almost finished the Bryophyta combat achievements. With only one achievement remaining, we required a poison weapon. Before that, however, it is time to open the caskets from our beginner clue scrolls that we got from Bryophyta. Nothing. And nothing. We really had three options for poison weapons: herblore to make weapon poison daggers from the rogues in the wilderness, or this option, travel to Karamjar and get a Karambuan poisoned spear. To get that spear, however, I would have to start the Type 1 Trio quest. A prerequisite for that is jungle potion, so that's where I decided to start my quest. In this quest, a witch doctor asks you to go in search of several herbs for him to burn in order for him to commune with the spirits of his forefathers. After searching Karamjar for these elusive herbs, the witch doctor informs you that the curse that they believed that they were under isn't actually a curse at all. I, however, did make the mistake of believing that one of these herbs was by one of the brothers for the Type 1 Trio, having to cross the bridge only to realise that it wasn't there at all. Several of these locations contain creatures that attack. One of these locations that's dangerous is by the harpy bugs. The other one is in a cave full of joggers. With 43 prayer, however, these weren't much of a threat. Mission accomplished. With jungle potion done, I went to the tribe leader, who informed me that his sons fled the curse. And now that the curse has been disproven, he wanted them to come back. My trip to the first sun proved difficult, to say the least. Considering that we had to cross this bridge multiple times, I was not going to be happy with this quest. So let's talk about this Tinsley guy for a minute, because this guy really bugs me. He refuses to come back to the village until the monument is complete, but needs to be in the village in order to complete the monument. What kind of messed up backward logic is that? Furthermore, the only way to persuade him to come back to the village is to travel the length and breadth of Karamjar in order to try and acquire foods that no one in their right mind would eat. I mean, a seaweed and monkey skin sandwich? Seriously? Ugh! I think at the end of this quest, I need to have a chat with his father. It was at this point that I realised that in order to complete my Bryophyta kill, I didn't actually have to complete this mission. All I had to do was to get to the point where I could get the poison spear. And so I went to the next brother, having not got the monkey sandwich yet. I went to talk to the Karambuan fisherman. I knew that Karambuanji was a good idea for raising cats. However, Karambuan itself is a very good food source, healing 18 points. It does, however, require 65 to catch, something I had not yet achieved. With only 60 fishing, I knew that I had one of three choices: either a small grind up to 62, and then eating a fish pie, a cooking grind in order to make admiral pies, or a fishing grind all the way up to 65. I decided on the first of these, the small grind and the fish pie. And there's 62 fishing. I went and gathered the resources for the fish pies, assembled it and cooked it in the bridge kitchen. Next up was the spears. The hobgoblins were my best option. Not only did they have a high rate of iron spears, but they also had a high rate of steel spears and a chance of both a rune and a dragon spear, options that may be very powerful later on. Furthermore, if this turned into a long grind, they weren't too far away from a food source, with just outside being the fishing spot and cooking spot for salmon and trout. And there it is. Once more, it's the steel one. Perfect. The last key to this puzzle was to catch the cranwan itself and turn it into cranwan paste. I tried them several times here to catch this cranwan, and it just was not catching. I used all 4 slices of pie, and still nothing. I needed a new plan. I moved my fishing spot, and this time I was successful. So as it turns out, you can't actually catch a cranwan by the guy who fishes the cranwan in the first place. Anyway, I made the cranwan paste, and I was now ready to take on Bryophyta. At this point, I realised I'd messed up. I hadn't brought an anti-poison. Having successfully landed the hit, I stepped back in order to whittle him down with a bit of magic. The best way to take on those little guys is to use the menu entry swapper to swap your axe to use. Then you can left click the axe in order to select it and just left click the little guys. This is also the best way to get the quick cutter combat achievement. At this point, Bryophyta was close enough to death that I didn't want to attack him anymore with magic. I had to make sure the last bit of damage was from the poison. And there he goes. A rune chain body and a clue scroll. Let's get out of here. In case you're wondering why I'm picking up all my stuff off the floor, following the Bryophyta fight, I attempted to out-heal the poison using potatoes from this field. Unfortunately, the poison was too great and I succumbed to its effect. This meant that I died in this field picking potatoes. I fortunately didn't lose too much from that event. The only thing I actually lost was the Chronicles. And I could always buy one of those from the Ango in Draenor. So the damage wasn't so great. I'd now completed what I had set out to do. I'd greenlocked the combat achievements for Bryophyta. Unfortunately, in doing so, I'd left one quest half finished. My OCD wouldn't allow this to continue, so I needed to find a way to get my herblore up in order to get an agility potion. There are other ways of getting an agility potion. I could have carried an irrit leaf around with me, and tried to get the Jekyll and Hyde event to occur. I, however, did not fancy using up an inventory slot for that long, and so I decided that I was going to do a series of quests in order to get my farming level up so that I could grow some herb seeds. In order to get this, therefore, I had my heart set on the Garden of Tranquility quest. To get to this quest, however, I'd need to complete 2 other quests first. Priests in Peril and the Creature of Frankenstein. And so it was, I set off up to Varrock in order to find out what was happening with Drezel. The king informs me that he has not heard from Drezel in many a month and asks me to check in on him. I talked to a man who claims he has Drezel through the door. He asked me to kill the dog in the temple below. With the level that I am, the Temple Guardian is no threat. I am easily able to take him out, even with my limited armor set. I return to the king, who berates me for being an idiot and believing the people behind the door. I returned to the temple to fix what I'd broken. With the limited inventory space that I had, I would need to make 3 trips to Varrock in order to get all the pure essence that I needed. Luckily, the Chronicle meant that I only needed to make the trip in one direction. I could teleport back. On the last trip, I only needed 3 pure essence. Frustratingly enough, if I could have dropped just one more item, I could have done this in one less trip. That's one of the frustrations of an ultimate timer. Mission accomplished. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.